Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I'm one of your hosts, Sami, here with Angela Belford, and today we are joined by a lovely guest, Kathryn Heizer. Kathryn, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk more about how our actions impact others and how we can really be mindful and use tools and support and partners. But before we get into all of that, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Kathryn Heizer, the Cascade Effect Coach. I'm a professional certified life coach, aiming to help high-functioning, high-performing, high-achieving professionals become their best selves and curate their best life. It's about the holistic individual, not just the person sitting behind a desk. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I come from the corporate world. I've spent over 20 years in a variety of functions, whether it's sales, shopper and category insights, marketing, replenishment, you name it, I've done it. I've been an individual contributor, a direct manager. I've been a leadership team member. So I understand all of the pushes and pulls and the points of stress and just frustration that can kind of come along with it. And my goal is to help ease some of that through various tools and resources and looking at things with a different lens than people might normally come up with on their own. So having a trusted partner to kind of unpack things with.
I love that. And this is a fairly new endeavor for you, the Cascade Effect, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the name and the why on that specifically. I know you're trying to tell us the big why, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Fantastic. Cascade Effect means so many different things. So our actions, our attitudes, the way that we approach life touches and affects everything that we deal with, whether it's the people and the projects that we work on, the tasks and the goals that we are trying to achieve, or our success and fulfillment in the long term. What we do today and how we approach our life has outsized impact on our future, on people that we don't even realize that we're touching necessarily. So that's first and foremost. But then we also think about, like the word cascade, for example, light cascades. It shines light and it illuminates things that we wouldn't normally see. So my goal as a coach is to help shed light on or shine light on things that might be hidden from you. So if you've got behavior patterns, for example, or consistent challenges that keep coming up, somebody from an objective outside perspective is more likely to be able to see that than somebody who is doing the activity or engaging in the communication with someone. And then water cascades. So water cascades, and it finds the path of least resistance and it carves out a path over time. So it's very, very powerful, and it can be very powerful in small amounts and in increasing amounts as well. So just getting started and getting that momentum can help carve your path and make it easier to stay on the path of least resistance rather than always kind of fighting a battle or feeling like you're starting over from scratch.
I love that. I have never thought about light cascading. It makes sense when you say it, but then I hadn't really thought about it like that. And interesting I probably missed a sentence or two because my little ADD brain went, oh, water does find the path of least resistance, but it also, like, erosion kind of creates new paths. I do a vision board every year, and I love to do things that are very not literal, things that are more abstract. And because I find that my brain will kind of grow into the things that they need to grow into. And so this year I have a picture of a river. And I remember growing up in science, we learned about an oxbow lake, right? Because when the river keeps pushing out and pushing out and pushing out, and then it finally gets so far out that then it kind of can connect the river. Anyway, this whole idea of river kind of creating a new path and like hard times creating a new path, and it might not be the path that we've wanted. And it does go to the path of least resistance, but there's also an element where we're not necessarily, if we're not paying attention, we're not directing it. And that water, the life kind of erodes our energy, and it erodes our kind of self-esteem, and anyway. Okay, I went way on, like.
No, I love this.
We love a good metaphor. I feel like that right there. You're like, oh, and all the ways that you can apply the metaphor and continue it and
Yes.
expand upon it. I feel like it's a
Mhm.
really
Exactly.
good one.
Well,
Mhm.
one of the things that you said at the beginning when you're talking about your vision board that I love is, like, you talked about how you got these visuals that are not literal.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I'm a huge fan of is not becoming overly attached to an outcome. So we've got these goals and we've got these things that we want to accomplish, and we're high performing people, but we sometimes get a little bit too attached to, I want X. And sometimes what's better for us is actually Y. But if we stay too tunnel visioned and focused on X, we may miss all of the different ways that we could have gotten to Y. And that could have been such a better outcome for our life, for our family, for our job, whatever it happens to be. So I think it's important to, like, kind of take those blinders off and be open to what presents itself to us as we go along this journey.
Okay, my brain is already firing 100 miles an hour this morning. So, the fixating on X, I have had the opportunity to speak with a couple of people, and probably the age that I am, 50 something, where people are like, oh, when I was 20 something, I had this goal and this
Mhm.
was where I wanted to get to. And two different times, two different people I've talked to in the last 6 months, they have the opportunity to have it. And suddenly they realize all what that means.
Mhm.
And I joke and say all the time, like, everybody wants a pool in their backyard, but you don't know what it means and all the work that goes into it and all the extra stuff that you have to do or pay somebody to do. And this has been interesting, of like, it's a weird thing because it's not death of a dream, but it
Mhm.
is a releasing of a dream and realizing, like, what my 20 something self or any time point in the future thought that meant. I mean, I'll go myself. I want to be a professional speaker. This is what I set this goal when I was 25 years old, and I went and got certified, all these things. And so, and I've had lots of opportunities to, like, oh, now I'm going to really be a speaker. And it's been in the last probably 6 months. Well, I joined about 2 years ago. I joined National Speakers Association, and I see people that their 100% of their job is being a professional speaker. And I'm like, I hate your life. I would not want to live your life. And a lot of them talk about how lonely the life of a professional speaker is. And so I won't say I've had to release that dream, but I've had to adjust and go, oh, well, what does it actually mean to be a professional speaker? Does it mean you get paid to speak? Check. Does it mean that you get to go and make an impact in front of people? Check. How is it you think you're not a professional speaker? Like, anyway, it was just this reconciliation process of, like, the combo of, like, what I thought that meant, or I already have it and I just didn't even realize it. Ruby slippers moment, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because one of the key things that helped me pivot in my career and figure out who I am and, like, what I want to be is kind of going through that exercise of not looking at specific things. So, like, I had decided at certain points that I'm going to be this, or society told me I should be that, or, like, this is what I should aspire to for all these different reasons. And I went through the process of kind of unpacking what my values are and figuring out, like, um, I had a life coach that kind of walked me through that, and it was invaluable. Like, once you learn something like that about yourself, you can't unlearn it. And I took their lesson a little bit further, like an extra step further. So you identify the values that you associate yourself with, or that light you up, or that you feel like people would describe you as, etc. And then I took that list after, like, going through a list of, like, maybe 400 values, and you write down the ones that resonate, and then you parse it down, parse it down, parse it down. And then I had these values, and I took them, and I'm like, okay, some of this feels like it's inherent to me. Like, if you took my soul, my essence, or whatever, and you put it in somebody else, anywhere else, that would still be true to me. But there are other aspects that are like, okay, this is my upbringing, or this is society, or this is my job, or this is like the
Wow.
mask that I wear. And so whenever I was able to kind of like separate the two and be like, this is me and this is my avatar, this is how I show up, then you can be empowered to be like, okay, the essence of me needs to show up more. I need to find ways to get aspects of that into my life, whether it's adventure or curiosity or just like whatever it is that's unique to you. The more that we can kind of sprinkle that into our everyday, the more likely that you're going to naturally attract the things that you get excited about and that are good for you. The more that we kind of continue to just mask, like the masks exist for a reason. We have these attributes for a reason. So they can't just like disappear, but to understand when, where, and how we're using them and why, we can be more choiceful about it and feel more empowered to show up as our authentic selves, or show up as the performer, as needed.
I think that's interesting. And also the observing our masks exist for a reason,
Mhm.
because one of the things that I have struggled with at times is that I sometimes feel like my mask of a person is nicer than actual me. And it's not bad to be nice to people. Like it's not bad to just like keep your sassy comment to yourself sometimes. And I notice more when I feel like I have to put that on and when I don't feel like I have to put that on. And so when I have a group of mom friends now that I'm getting really close with, that I have noticed I don't have I can let the sassy comment fly
Mhm.
and it's fine. And nobody's going to be you know, I'm able to be a little bit more myself. And it is not that I don't want to be nice, but Mask Sammy is going to have the sassy comment, the like little snarky remark and be like, maybe not. Maybe I keep that to myself. And so it's an interesting place to be at, to say that my mask, it's not bad. It is just interest anyway, I'm personally still in the messy middle of it, of figuring out there are times where it's okay for me to consciously put the mask on because it's a new friendship. I don't want them to not know me and not know my heart and intention behind it is silliness and playfulness. So I don't want to accidentally hurt somebody. I also professional situations, it's not always super appropriate to just be snarky and sassy about everything going on. And then if I'm with my family, we do joke that there's like teasing is free and we tease a lot, and it's something that, you know, when my siblings would bring a significant other home, a sign that we liked them is that we would make fun of them, which is counterintuitive and maybe we should probably still do some other work, but if we were too nice to somebody, that was kind of a sign that we didn't really like them and that we couldn't really be ourselves around them, and it's a weird place. Anyway, I think that masks are complicated. They're a coping mechanism and tool to use purposefully, not unintentionally.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too is to recognize how much you're using it. So like we
Mhm.
have to use it in certain scenarios, like you said, but it requires energy and it requires effort every
Mhm.
time we put it on. So whether we realize we're putting it on or not, whether we're conscious about it, it's a more draining experience versus an empowering and an uplifting and energizing experience. So finding that balance, finding those safe spaces, those people that you can just let loose with, or even just being by yourself for a little while to just, recoup. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, it doesn't matter. You need to be your authentic self, whether that involves other people or not, to get
I'm
that balance back in place.
I Number one, I love your idea of avatar versus mask. Because mask, maybe I just have some own preconceived notions that it feels like it's, for me, it has always been negative. So maybe I need to read. So I love the idea of an avatar, and that like there are different versions of me, right? And that avatar needs to show up. What's interesting is that recently I had um an a death in the family, and it was expected. Like, I knew it was coming. We had months to prepare. We had weeks of hospice. We knew it was any day now we're getting, and I was caught off guard by how it impacted me because I thought, oh, I'm prepared for this. I'm ready. This person was 90 years old. And what I had to say to the people around me, number one, I was very happy that my husband and youngest daughter were traveling during that 3-week period. And I had so much alone time because my grief kept popping up as anger. And so I was like, oh, it's lovely not to have a roommate during this time frame. And I could I could just have that little bit of a break. And the second thing is that in a couple of my client dealings that I'm with them a lot, they got very direct, Angela. They didn't get mean. I wasn't mean-spirited, so I was very proud of myself because I still lived in alignment to my values and what I say is my character. And when I live up to my own standards of excellence for how I want to treat people, I find that I match other people's expectations because I have high standards for treating people kindly in general. But they got very direct, Angela. Like, not a lot of sugarcoating, no caveating whatsoever, straight to the point. And I go, oh, interesting. When my body's using up a lot of energy for grief, the first thing to go was the extra caveating energy and the extra trying to soft pedal it for them. And you know what? I learned a lesson because the direct version was so much more impactful. Like, we've had some behaviors that were detrimental to team dynamics that have improved dramatically quickly because I just gave it to them straight. They didn't have to listen through well, now let me be life coachy, let me be kind, let me be all I want to. It turns out that when I just look at them and go, I'm sorry, I don't know how to make you happy because I have not figured out how to make you happy in this. So I don't know how anybody else is going to. And I wasn't mean about it. I just was straight. And it was fascinating. They were caught off guard. Anyway, so
I think
I
you were
love that
caught
you
off guard too,
I was
Angela.
caught off guard, but I so appreciate that you're talking about that putting on that avatar takes energy. And I have this visualization of like Tony Stark, and I remember times when I felt like I was inside that really thick armor and I functioned well. I was a superhero. And then I more visualize it as like the bodysuit that is just right on top of you, and that you're protecting your heart, but yet there's a thin layer of protection, but it's so much more flexible and able to move. And for me, when I live in that space where I'm like, this world isn't super safe, right? There's not very many people that you can take off all your guard with. But I don't want to be in the big bodysuit. I want to be in just the thinnest possible protective layer that I need. And it's been so much more energizing and so much less work to just be inside of who I am. So I love that.
Yeah. The suit serves a purpose, but it's not you.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. It
Viewing
absolutely
it as
does.
separate from yourself, but like something that is a tool that you can utilize.
Mm-hmm.
And your example about grief reminded me of back whenever I was in college after my freshman year, I went and sold books door to door in Atlanta, Georgia. And I had an encounter with a woman. So you knock on the door, kids answer. I asked, to talk to the parents. And so the whole family was home that day, but they naturally automatically go to mom. And so mom comes to the door and she is in the worst. She's cursing me out. She's like, get off my porch. And she just ripped me, in two. And she's just like letting it all out. And, all I did was introduce myself and I'm like, I don't even need to be here. I can go somewhere else. But I didn't say that. I just let her just kind of verbally get out whatever she needed to get out. And I looked at her and I said, do you need a hug? And she instant tears. And she gave me, I hugged that woman for probably 2 minutes. It felt like 5. But she was like sobbing, like physically shaking, sobbing. And I just held her. And she was like, "You're the first person who has seen me." And so she had just lost her father, and she was managing, like running the whole thing. And she just felt so invisible, and like everything was falling on her. And she was surrounded by people, but they weren't seeing her and what she needed
Oh my
in that moment. And she was like, "You're the first person who is seeing me." And so I just held her, and I let her let go first. And
God.
so like that was at a young age, that was one of the things that I learned so much that summer about human behavior and psychology. And it was I would never it was a difficult summer, but I would never give up that experience because it was really moving and it shaped who I am. But yeah, it's natural. We only have a limited amount of capacity. And whenever you're like stretched, like, and you're running like in the red on a regular basis, those extra little things can just be that tipping point that like, I don't need this right now and I
Right.
can't handle it. And so we're not our best selves. And so that's normal human behavior. It's totally natural. And it's, I think sometimes we beat ourselves up whenever we, you know, tip the scales and we're like, okay, now you get this version of me. But that's just being human, and it's okay.
So I think about my husband and I did marriage therapy for a while, and one of the things that our therapist said that I think changed the course of our life is listen to what this person is telling them about themselves. And so the idea that when somebody is saying something, if somebody's standing in front of you cursing you out, that actually has nothing to do with you. It actually isn't about you at all. It is truly about something is happening for them. And so, particularly in our relationship, when one of us shows up agitated, frustrated, angry, and upset, it's actually probably not about the other person. It is probably about what's going on for them. And even if it's like you left the towel on the ground again, it's actually not about the towel. It's about I might feel unappreciated in the work that I do, and then I continue to have to do the same things over and over again. Listen to what they are telling listen for what they are telling you about themselves. And I think that that makes a huge difference as leaders and as just people wanting to lead with empathy in the world, is that if somebody is showing up in a way that may not feel regulated or fun or cozy or whatever, it very, very, very small percent chance that it's actually about you. It is very likely that it is something within themselves, and being able to separate those things. Because I think so often we default to they're yelling at me, something is wrong with me. Oh no. I've like
Well,
maybe, but maybe not.
it's funny that you say that because that I was also direct with another person on the team, and I get this text that was like, "Hey, you two need to go to lunch." No, we don't. And so I called the next day and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, you and I never need to go to lunch. We just need to talk." And they were like, "Yes, yes, I agree with you." And I said, "For the record," and this person I've had conflict, and it has been very productive conflict, meaning that like I cause irritation and they get upset and they've yelled at me and then they grow and I'm like, "Oh, lovely. I get to be the thing that helps you grow." Anyway, I said, "In this scenario, that's not," he's like, "Is there anything I need to do?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. No, I need grace right now." And luckily we have enough of a relationship that I could just be really straight with him. I didn't have to give him all the gory details. I said, "I need a little bit of grace because right now I'm carrying a lot of extra weight with this grief and it's impacting me in ways I didn't realize. And so if you could just be easy with me for the next week or two, you're doing great and you're being gentle and kind and you're giving me all the support that I need. I feel very well cared for in this team environment, which is a very different place than we were 7 months ago." And so they were able to, say, "Oh, well, I'm happy to give you grace and I have so much love." And it was such a relief for him for me to let him off the hook and be like, "No, no, no, it isn't about you." And I know that a lot of us either aren't in a safe place or there's not that kind of situation where we can share and be that open that I think we can. What I would love to encourage people is that I think if you were even in an unsafe place and you're like, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm just feeling off lately. I don't know. Maybe I need to get a little more sunshine. Maybe it's been too many. I have been known to like blame it on something silly, like I need to get some sunshine. I'm not feeling myself. I don't know. Maybe I just ate something or maybe I'm coming down. You can say some things like that and get buy yourself a little bit of wiggle room while you figure it out without having to tell people, oh my gosh, my husband and I have this huge fight. And you don't have to like air your laundry to give people an idea. Something's up with me. I'm trying to figure it out. Do you see that? You have a lot more corporate and probably a lot more. Am I crazy in that advice?
No, easy at all. And I love that. One of the things that, like, this isn't a corporate example, but, I've got a son, he's 13. So he's in that early teen phase where like, we're starting to butt heads just a little bit. And there'll be times where like, I'll just start to get a little irritated and I'm like, okay, well, this is, I'm normally not irritated with you. This feels different. Like, what is it? And so usually rather than just letting that sort of irritated moment or whatever comment or whatever tone that I had just sit in the room, then I'll be like, I'm sorry. I am not feeling my best self. Maybe I'm hangry and I need to eat something, or maybe I just am not sleeping well, or I'm in pain, or whatever it is. And so it's just like kind of going down, not necessarily a laundry list, but like it's a kind of letting them know, okay, I'm in a mood. So use some kid gloves or not. That's your choice. But also, it's not you, it's me. Like, I've got something going on and I'm more reactive than I want to be. And just
Mhm.
acknowledging that that is something that's true. And that it's temporary and that it too will pass, even if it is that argument with the husband or whatever, that, like, it's a bigger deal and it's going to kind of cascade through like time until that gets itself resolved. Um, yeah, I think it's kind of just letting people get that little glimpse into what's going on with you and taking the blame off the table. I think
Mm.
oftentimes whenever we get into a weird headspace or a weird emotional state, there's a tendency to blame either ourselves or whoever is lashing out at us. And if we kind of separate ourselves from the emotions a little bit, like feel the feelings and let them go, or acknowledge other people's feelings and know that they're valid. And not take it personally.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the key things to keep from being too attached or
Yeah.
putting too much weight on things that are temporary.
I love that. This has been fantastic. I feel like people get so much, there's so many nuggets out of this. One thing that we talked a little bit about before we started recording that I would love. So, one of the ways that you work with clients is actually if I am a corporate leader and I have somebody on my team that needs a little extra help, and I would love to mentor them and I would love to, you know, kind of give them some coaching and some guidance, but I'm maxed out. I've got my own set of initiatives. You are a resource for that scenario, right? So if I'm that leader, I can reach out and offer this as a resource. Is that a good way for people to work with you?
Yeah, exactly. So I work with individuals and then I also work with businesses. So thinking of, like me in my previous role, I was a director. I led a team that worked cross functionally. And so my goal is to partner with leadership teams and kind of be like their right hand person that can take some of this more like emotional, stressful, what maybe it's even organizational workload, some of those pieces off of the table. So that way they can meet with their employees one on one, and their employees can feel empowered, can lower the emotional temperature in the room prior to having difficult conversations, come with solutions more so than problems. So, yeah, employers can reach out to me and I can work individually if they've got a particular person in mind. I can work with them one on one. Or the other thing that I am passionate about offering is 1 to 4 hour time blocks where I can come to the office, set me up in room 101, for example, for like 3 hours every other Thursday. And people can rotate through, sign up for 20 to 30-minute sessions, and somebody can be working on some lofty goal and they just need a sounding board to, like bounce ideas off of. And somebody can have that sort of like, I'm going through one of the roughest times in my life, and I don't feel like I can talk to anybody about it, but I need this space to kind of just reset, refocus, and feel seen, heard, respected, valued. And to kind of like, again, like lower the emotional temperature in the room. So that way the business leaders and the employees can really get focused, laser focused on their goals and get back to business. And I can kind of take away some of the messy parts that can interfere, you know?
Yeah.
So we all have our challenges. We all have our stressors. Business is incredibly stressful.
Yep.
And when we're stressed, we're not our best selves. We're not as creative. We're not as thoughtful. We're not as nice. We're not all of these things. We're not as focused on problem solving. We can get into coping mechanisms that work against us. So whether it's perfectionism or analysis paralysis or what have you, going into functional freeze mode where, you know, like, okay, I know that this was due 2 weeks ago, but the fact that it's so late, like makes me like less likely to even get started on it. Like there are things that we're humans, we're not
Right.
robots.
Yep.
And so helping people acknowledge what's kind of holding them back, and get past those hurdles and recognize, okay, that's okay. I don't need to waste my time beating myself up over this. I just need to take that next step.
There
The
you go.
first step to the next thing that needs to happen, and let the rest of it go.
I
I
love
think
it.
that's so great. And I feel like that's such an incredible resource to be able to provide for teams to just have somebody there, even in the office, just for that quick check-in. I love that.
Mhm.
We love to ask our guests if there's one thing that you hope people walked away from this with, or one thing you want to leave people with, what would that be?
Yeah, I kind of almost started to say it at the very end of what I was just talking about. It's never too late to take the first next step. If you see something in your life that you don't like, that you feel like, okay, my river is taking me down this path, but I actually kind of want to go over there instead, like it's okay. You're never too far down the river to work in the opposite direction, to take that first step. We don't need to blow everything up and start over. It's just, okay, let me take this next step and then the step after that. And just kind of keep going. And that's going to build up that momentum for you. And so a lot of times we've got these big, lofty goals and these things that we want to achieve, or something that we think is so far outside of ourselves. I can't possibly even do that. Um, and what sets high performers and high achievers apart from those who aren't is taking that action and doing something about it. And it's not having the whole path mapped out, before you even get started. Because even that's just a waste of time, honestly. Mapped out, because you know that there are going to be variables that come into play that you've not accounted for. Something's going to knock you off course, and you're going to have to redirect. That's just life. So
Beautiful.
we don't need to have it all figured out. We're not supposed to. And that's kind of what makes life fun, is figuring it out on the way and choosing your own adventure.
Love it.
Kathryn, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is cascadeeffectcoach.com. That's my website. It'll link you to everything else. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook as Cascade Effect Coach. And it's effect with an E, for those who struggle with that.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here today and for this conversation. If you guys got something out of this, or you feel like it would be helpful for someone you know, share the episode. We would love to help cascade the effect of this conversation and all of these things into all of the places around you. Thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.